Hello, I'm Theresa Lowe and welcome to part 3 of my new online series on confidence, Confident You. And today I want to take a snapshot of this whole area of visualization and a little story of how I stumbled across the concept accidentally. In 1983, I started in RTE television as a continuity announcer. These are the people, the men and women who introduced the programs on RTE1 and RTE2 as it was then, television. And we were live and in vision. You could see us sitting in a nice chair and welcoming the viewers to the day's programs. And we popped up in between the programs as well. And then last thing at night, you'd see us again. We'd appear on screen to wish everybody a very good night. Well, the night that I started in RTE, I was told that because it was my very first night in RTE, I wouldn't be in vision. I would just sign off the evening with a live voiceover telling people about the next day's programming and finishing up with a final good night from all of us here in RTE. So that was fine. And I was scheduled to make this my very first announcement on the national airways at about 11:30 p.m. And then things changed. A call came through from the powers that be to the control room. It was the head of TV saying, Theresa Lowe is going to be in vision tonight. So fine. Well, before I could start to panic, I was rushed off to makeup and wardrobe, wrote up my script, learned it off by heart, no auto cue in those days. And just before I went live, I rang my mother in a state of absolute terror and said, "You're going to see me tonight. The whole country's going to see me. This is going to go out at 11:30. I've had 1.5 hours training. I can't do this, ma'am. What am I going to do? I'm just dying with nerves. What will I do?" And she said, "Theresa, when you're talking to the camera, just pretend you're talking to me." And so when the red light came on, I looked at this inanimate object in front of me, this piece of glass, and I suddenly was talking to my mother, and I was smiling and nodding and chatting away to her. And I imagined that she was smiling and nodding back at me, something she did a lot of. That was my accidental introduction to visualization. And I've used it thousands of times ever since over the years. And it is something that you can adapt to your own situation, whatever it is. You have an important meeting, you have a job interview, you're making a speech or a presentation, or you're about to have a very difficult conversation with somebody. Before you start that speech, that job interview or conversation, just imagine that you're about to speak to the one person in the world who you know for a fact loves you and thinks that you're great and is totally open and receptive to you. And we all have at least one such person in our lives. It could be a parent, it could be a grandparent, it could be a husband, a wife, a partner, a sister, a brother, a great friend, a confidant, a colleague. Just close your eyes and have their face clearly in your mind's eye. And when you're at that meeting or you're making that speech or whatever it is that you have to do, imagine you're talking to that hugely positive person. Smile at them and engage with them. And you can be sure of a positive reception from the other side of the table or the room. Some people find actually visualizing a successful outcome very helpful as well. So you've got the job interview or you're making a presentation, close your eyes and visualize yourself smiling, walking confidently into the room with energy and positivity up to the podium and engage with the people in the room, with the interviewer across the table with that same energy and positivity. Imagine it, shut your eyes, you'll see it, you can imagine it. If you can imagine it, you see it, you feel it, and you really will feel that this is happening and it will be real. And see the interest and the positive responses on those other person's faces and imagine the successful conclusion. You've got the job or you've made a hugely important connection that will lead to a job, or there's a great reaction to what you've had to say. People are listening to you and they're taking on board your views. You are making a difference. And it won't always work out the way you want to, but if you keep using positive visualization, it becomes a habit. It improves your confidence levels. And people like and recognize confidence. And you know what? You will get closer and closer each time, I can promise you, to your anticipated and wanted outcomes. Creative, positive visualization. Now, my husband Frank always tells the story of a musician friend of his who Frank was driving to the airport and they were late. And Frank said, "Sean, you're not going to make this flight. This is like really way too tight." And Sean said, "Frank, just give me a few minutes. I use positive, creative visualization." And Frank said, "What's that?" And Sean said, "I'm picturing myself sitting on the plane and I'm seeing myself putting on the seatbelt." "Okay," said Frank. They were really, really late. But you know what? When they got to the airport, The plane had been delayed by over an hour, and Sean, after all that, did make the flight. So we've touched on visualization. We're going to move briefly into the area now of gratitude. Before you go to bed tonight, just think of 3 things that you're grateful for and write them down. Things that happened today, you know, people in your life, something that made you feel really grateful. My son made me a cup of tea this morning and brought it up to me in bed. I was roaring laughing at an episode of The Simpsons. It felt really good. I'm grateful that we had a nice dinner tonight. And then write down 1 thing that you'd like to happen the next day. It could be something really, really simple, but write it down, something good, something positive that'll bring a little joy. If you think only positive thoughts, see only positive pictures, if you're grateful and looking forward to the next day, then all of those things become a habit. Thinking this way becomes a habit. Your brain believes the pictures it sees and the things that you tell it. So it's inevitable that life will change and your confidence will build. I'm going to leave you now with a short clip from my chat last year with entrepreneur and fitness guru Rob Lipsett, one of the most positive people I've ever met in my entire life. And he's a firm believer in journaling, one of the tools that he uses for positivity and confidence. See you next time. Take care. And if you have any thoughts on visualization or something that you use that really works for you, please feel free to share it in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. You've vlogged and blogged and Instagrammed, and you used YouTube to extraordinary lengths. You're very traditional in some other ways. For instance, you like writing manually into a journal every day.
Yeah.
So why is that important to you?
I think there's just, we're so head in the phone, head on the screen. We're just so technologically based nowadays. That's fine. That's the way life is. So I think it's cool to just wind it back and just, you know, go old school and make it physical. Because when you put it on a screen or something, like, it's virtual. But when you write it down, this could be me, like, talking voodoo crap, you know. When you write it down, I believe you put it out there, it's a physical thing, and it's more likely to happen. Like, I swear to God, so, you know, there's dates for the whole year. I'd flick well into the year and I'd be like, I want this to happen on this day. And I'd write it down so far in advance that I forget it would happen. And then I would flick over, it would finally be that day, and what I've written down has actually happened on that day. Like, it's just crazy. And like, I don't know what it is, because like, I just don't know.
So it's like another kind of form of that positive affirmation that you were talking about earlier.
Completely. It's like another form of visualization. Wow, and it's like, I don't know, maybe it's because you write it down and it's subconsciously in the back of your head that it's there, but either way, it happens, you know.